These are some of the most underrated players in the Premier League. From every club, let's take a look at the 20-player list. Before we get into it, I'm really wanting to push this subscriber count up, so please, if you could, help me out by clicking the subscribe button. Just clicking that button, it means a lot and it'd be very much appreciated if you could. In alphabetical order, we start off with Arsenal, and the player I have down for them is Dani Ceballos. The Spanish central midfielder offers a lot in the midfield, and especially in attack for Arsenal when he's playing. He's a player with good technique on the ball with his dribbling, and per 90, he averages 2.1 tackles won as well as 1.4 key passes. With these stats, you can tell that he's a well-rounded player in attack and defence. With this being said, however, he isn't one of the first names on the team sheet at Arsenal, so for a player that's in and out of the first team, I think he is a little underrated looking at the stats and the influence he can have on the team. He is still only on a loan from Real Madrid, so his future is still unknown, but at 24 years of age, I think he'd be a great signing for someone. I'm not sure if Arsenal will sign him permanently, however. Next up, we've got Aston Villa, and the underrated player I have for them is Matt Targett. Now, this selection here is actually kind of an apology from me because I doubted him at the start of the season. I can't exactly remember which video it was, but there was some video where I said Aston Villa needed a new left back. But I was wrong on that one. He has surprised me, and on that left flank with Grealish, he's been great at getting the ball forward to him quickly. A stat which backs that up is his progressive passes. He has 167, which is the most for Aston Villa, and also the second most passes into the penalty area. This proves that his passing has been dangerous and effective for the team, and also with the most tackles won for Aston Villa, he's been solid in the defence for Villa at left back. So there's my apology to Matt Targett. Next season I won't be saying that they need a new left back. He has played a big part of their improvement this season, and I'm sure that will continue. At Brighton, I think their underrated player is Pascal Gross. Now, interestingly with this one, a few months ago when I was looking at Brighton and what they needed to change and how to score more goals, I sort of looked at Pascal Gross and saw what he'd been doing for the team and thought he needs to start more. He didn't start in any of Brighton's first 6 Premier League matches. After that, he did have a spell where he started quite a few games and got 2 goals and 2 assists. And then in 2021, well, he's been starting nearly every match. And this is due to him being a very creative player. He does have the most assists for Brighton this season, as well as the most key passes and the most accurate crosses. He changes the attack for Brighton. We know that Brighton are a team that create many chances, and we look at the attacking midfielder Trossard as the one doing a lot of that work. However, Pascal Gross is the leader in terms of creativity, and I think in this Brighton side, he is an underrated player. The next team to discuss is Burnley, and at Sean Dyche's side, I think that Matt Lowton is an underrated player. Maybe Burnley overall deserve a bit more respect for actually staying in the Premier League season upon season. A lot of it is down to the way that Sean Dyche sets the team up, but it's the players on the pitch putting in the performances, and I think they do really well. Matt Lowton is who I picked though. He contributes well to their system, 42 tackles and 42 interceptions. And well, when they do attack, their main creators are McNeil and Westwood, but after them, Matt Lowton is another player who helps out at right back. For live passes that lead to a shot attempt, he's third behind those players. So I think Matt Lowton gives them something different in what generally is a defensive team. At Chelsea, I think one of their underrated players is English striker Tammy Abraham. I think the situation with Abraham at Chelsea is kind of similar to Calvert-Lewin at Everton. When Marco Silva was in charge, Calvert-Lewin didn't really get a proper opportunity to play in the first team. However, when Duncan Ferguson took charge, Calvert-Lewin came into the team and started scoring goals. And I think you can also say that Calvert-Lewin and Tammy Abraham, there are similarities in their game. Tammy Abraham this season in all competitions has scored 12 and assisted 6, which isn't a bad return. It's pretty good to say that he's been a rotation player. And since Thomas Tuchel took charge, he's only played 123 minutes of Premier League football. So why I say it's similar to Calvert-Lewin, because if he gets an opportunity, possibly at another team as a first team player, I think he starts to score a lot of goals for them. I think he can really thrive somewhere else, so I do hope to see a transfer for him. The underrated player at Crystal Palace I have down as Andros Townsend. I feel like I usually see Andros Townsend as a Premier League player who's probably had better days at other clubs, but this season he's been one of the most important players for Crystal Palace. For them, he's created the most chances with 30, he also has won the most tackles with 64, as well as the most interceptions with 33. Those 64 tackles won, by the way, ranks him 10th in the Premier League, contributing really well defensively as a right winger to this Crystal Palace side, so he's a brilliant asset for them, and I'd imagine for Roy Hodgson, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. And let's not forget his ability of scoring great goals. We'll never forget that goal against Manchester City. At Everton, I think their underrated player is Mason Holgate. Everton signed him him in 2015, and then he had a loan at West Brom in 2019, and then when Carlo Ancelotti arrived at the club, he was praising Mason Holgate straight away. When Carlo came in, they were playing that 4-4-2 with a direct style of play, and I think this is why he really liked Mason Holgate being in the team. It seems that ever since he arrived, Mason Holgate has always been in his plans, and now with him being fit, he is a starter in the team. Since the start of February, Holgate has started every Premier League game for Everton, either playing as a centre-back or a right-back, and I'm sure this is what Ancelotti really likes, the flexibility with Holgate's positioning and being comfortable on the ball and passing out from the back. The next club is Fulham, and an underrated player there is one of their new signings from last summer, and that is Anthony Robinson. You could tell from his time in the Championship that he was a really promising player. Of course, he nearly had that move to AC Milan, so when Fulham signed him, I was interested to see him join, and this video is the right one to praise him. After a lot of the season played now, we can see how he's performed for Fulham, and he's done well in creating for the team. He has 20 accurate crosses, which is the second most after Ademola Lookman. What he's been able to do is come in and be a starter for Fulham, taking Joe Bryan's spot in the team. He was good for them in the Championship last season, and I think an improvement needed to be made as they came into the Premier League, and Anthony Robinson has been a good replacement. He's a better player to have in the Premier League, and he's definitely still got potential. Moving on, I think Leeds United's underrated player is Stuart Dallas. Of course, a lot of their players have performed well this season, but with Stuart Dallas, he's become more attacking as the season has gone on. Now, he's always had that attacking influence, of course, but in 2021, he's been playing as an attacking midfielder, as well as central midfield and his natural positions of left back and right back. Playing in all these positions, he is a player who's very effective in attack and defence for them, and it is quite rare to find a player this versatile and adaptable to different roles. With this versatility he offers to the team, he becomes a top player for Leeds, who has featured in every Premier League match this season. Maybe he's a player who's rated already, but I think it was good to highlight this quality of his. At Leicester City, we're keeping on the theme of Northern Irish players here, I've gone with their centre-back Johnny Evans. When you think a few years back when he was at Manchester United, he used to get a lot of criticism, and really that is quite understandable at a team like Manchester United. Everybody's watching you. However, at Leicester, he has been able to turn that around. He's won the most aerial duels for Leicester this season, and he's also got the highest win rate of 71% compared to their other centre-backs, Fofana on 59%, and Soyuncu is also on 59%. As well as that, he also has the highest success rate with his long balls. He's completed 75 with a success rate of 45%. For Brendan's side, he's really become a quality defender that has been good for them alongside new centre-backs that have come into the club. He's always consistently been there no matter who's alongside him. And then with Liverpool, I've gone with an interesting one here, their central midfielder Naby Keita. I'm not giving up on a player that's come through RB Salzburg and RB Leipzig. I feel like there's more to come from him, but he hasn't got the opportunity yet to show it consistently. Of course, what has troubled him at Liverpool is his injuries. This has really hurt his game time this season. Looking at last season when he played more minutes, per 90, he had the second most tackles won with 3.3, and what you also find was that his passing was impressive and forward thinking with 8.1 passes entering the final third per 90. Maybe he just needs a proper opportunity of consistently being in the team. I just get the feeling there is more to see from him. From Liverpool, we go to Manchester City, and I think it's hard to find an underrated player in their team. However, I've gone with Riyad Mahrez. As said, I don't really know if there's anyone in their team who's exactly underrated, but with Riyad Mahrez, he had good form before the international break. In his last 6 Premier League matches, he scored 4 goals and got 2 assists. And in this City team managed by Pep Guardiola, there is a lot of players who come in and out of the team, and Mahrez is one of the players that is rotated in a quality squad of players. From his time at Leicester and Manchester City now, he's been in the Premier League for a while. We know his qualities. Underrated? I'm not too sure, but someone had to be picked from their team. With Manchester United, I think an underrated player there who's probably starting to get a bit more credit, but I'm still using them for this video, is Luke Shaw. So I think quite a lot of people are starting to see his quality and the influence he's having on this Manchester United side. Going into this season, maybe some people thought his time was over and others just thought he wasn't one of the best people in this team. However, this season, he's really been able to prove people wrong. For United, he currently sits on the second most key passes after Bruno Fernandes, also with the most accurate crosses, and that has led to him getting 5 assists for them this season. What he is brilliant at is receiving the ball and then running forward with it. He's carried the ball into the final third 74 times, which is the 5th most in the Premier League. The improvement we've seen in Luke Shaw's game is huge, and I feel the credit is starting to now come his way. What proves this even more is his England call-up recently. At Newcastle United, it's probably just hard to find any player that you rate in the first place, never mind underrated. However, the player that I did go for is defensive midfielder Isaac Hayden. He has been good at doing his job for the team with 53 tackles and 43 interceptions for Newcastle this season. Realistically, you could say if you defend as much as Newcastle do, these are the numbers that you just should be getting. But credit to him, another player could have been in his position and not done as well as this. Isaac Hayden has, he's done his job quite well, but it can be quite difficult to find many positives in this Newcastle side when there's so much negativity surrounding them at the moment. With Sheffield United, I chose Ethan Ampadu as their underrated player. I feel like we need to start rating this guy a little more, as I do think we're going to see more from him in the Premier League. What he's been great at is winning aerial duels. He's got a win rate of 68%, winning 52, and he's a player who's able to play centre-back or defensive midfield, as he's good on the ball. Defensive midfield is where he plays sometimes for the Wales national team. That's who he plays for, and he's been playing for them recently. At 20 years of age, he's now had game time in the Premier League, but also some of you might remember he was on loan at RB Leipzig last season in Germany. Being on loan from Chelsea, maybe there's a little possibility that Chelsea give him a chance in the first team next season. If not, then it makes him a brilliant transfer target for another Premier League team, being 20 years of age with experience in the Premier League and in Germany, also being a Welsh international. I think he's one to keep an eye on as we enter the summer transfer window. The next team to cover is Southampton, and an underrated player there is centre-back Yannick Vestergaard. The 28-year-old from Denmark has been at Southampton since 2018, and the standout quality with him is his height. Being 6'6", he's brilliant in the air and he's very useful at set pieces. Looking at the stats, he's won 75 aerial duels this season, that ranked 16th in the Premier League with a 66% win rate. As well as that, he's a player who's used to get the ball up the pitch quickly with the second most accurate long balls for Southampton, and that is with a 50% success rate. Overall, he's a great centre-back for them, who as said becomes a great asset in the defence and the attack with his height. There have been a few rumours of him potentially moving away from Southampton, with Tottenham maybe interested. And that is actually who we're talking about next. We've got Tottenham now, and I've gone with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Now, some of you might have seen my most underrated players video in December. In that video, I named 5 underrated players, and Højbjerg was one of them. Since that video, I think he has been getting a bit more recognition, but it's only a few months from then, and I don't want to change my decision on him. For this season, I think we can still call him underrated due to the influence and impact he's had on the team, because that is what makes it so impressive. It is still his first season at Tottenham, and before his move, we weren't exactly seeing him as a top player in the Premier League when he was at Southampton, but I think Jose Mourinho has used him really well, and so far he's had the most tackles in the Premier League, making 79. You can maybe say it's similar to the situation of Isaac Hayden at Newcastle United. When you are defending a lot and you're the defensive midfielder, everything is going through you, then yes, you are going to make a lot of defensive actions, because as well as that, he's also got the most attempted and successful pressures in the league, so he's been able to execute what Jose Mourinho wanted in a defensive midfielder perfectly. A brilliant signing for Tottenham, and I think still this season we can call him underrated. Now we move to a side in West Brom who are in the relegation zone, and the underrated player I have for them is Conor Gallagher. It's took me a little while to see the quality and influence Gallagher is having on West Brom. He really has been an important player for them this season, and he's still on loan from Chelsea. Another player in this list who's on loan from Chelsea, of course we had Ethan Ampadu before. Again, the question, will they give him a chance in the team, or should another team look to get him? Because this season he's been really good for West Brom. Like I say, the most tackles for West Brom and the second most successful dribbles for them too. He's got a good defensive side to his game, which he's shown at West Brom, but also when he was at Swansea City on loan last season, he was good in the attack. In his short loan spell there, he got 7 assists in the Championship. So he's a young player with a range of qualities, which makes him a good transfer target for someone in the summer. From West Brom we go to West Ham, and their underrated player I have as Arthur Masuaku. He's been at West Ham for a while now, since 2016. He's 27 years old. Before this season, I don't really think he'd been that amazing for West Ham. However, at the start of this season, he really impressed me. A lot of players have really looked different under David Moyes, and Arthur Masuaku is one of them. When he was fit and in the team, he was a good creative player for them, creating chances by crossing on the left flank. As the left wing back in a back 5 system, he had the freedom to attack with Aaron Cresswell behind him, and if he was still fit right now and he'd been playing the majority of games throughout the season, I'd be interested to see what his stats look like now. He was playing a good role in the team back then, so maybe he's one for next season when we can see him come into the team again. And then for Wolves, I have their underrated player down as a player who they recently signed, and that was Nelson Semedo. Well, I say recently signed, they signed him new this season. Coming in from Barcelona and being the right back for Wolves, he's been a very influential player for them. He's had the second most touches for them after Ruben Neves, and a lot of the play goes through him, meaning he's a player who gets the ball into advanced positions for the team. When Semedo receives the ball, he's either looking to make direct passes forward or carry the ball forward. He has 57 carries into the final third this season. With this being his first season in the Premier League and his first for Wolves, I think he's settled in well and really found his place in the team, becoming a quite important player for Wolves. Comment below, let me know your underrated Premier League players. I recommend that you don't miss out on future videos. Subscribe to Route 1 and like the video if you did enjoy.